The GE, BNY Mellon and Marsh McLennan
Yeah.
spent many years in this transition from capacity to capability.
Yeah.
The newer companies coming here can do it much
Faster.
with a deliberate focus on
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like I have to go there because if I don't,
Yeah.
then I don't succeed by staying in the capacity eco bubble.
Correct.
The year on year cost escalations will make it impossible to sustain. For now, I'd like to go into the main part of our conversation, the global capability centers, aka GCC. It's become a buzzword over the last many years, but just going by just your own journey, these things have existed in different ways and forms since, let's say, the beginning of 90s, isn't it? Let's start with the like fundamentals.
Yeah.
What the hell is a
GCC?
For our audience, let's start with that. We get lost in the minutiae all the time, but let's start with the fundamental. Please tell us what the hell is a GCC?
So, of course, GCC is Global Capability Centers.
Right.
Before I get to what is a GCC,
Right.
What is the story behind the name GCC?
Right.
In 99, when we started, this industry was called captives.
Mm-hmm.
And captives is a well understood word in the global circle. This is a captive center, right? Owned by us. Like there are captive insurance companies. And I had I had never a problem with that word, right? Captives. But I remember in Bangalore, NASCOM, and I was there in that room. And all of us were there, almost 50 of us, from JP Morgan, Deutsche, everybody was there. And there was a huge debate on this word captives. Okay. And everybody said captives feels like we have been captured, we are captivated.
Like inmates.
I never felt it, but some people, so we must change. This is not the good word. Right. And what else they came up with was a term called GIC. Do you know this? Remember this?
Yeah, of course.
Global In-House Center.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very sorry to say I hated that word for a long time.
Right.
I came back from Bangalore and I told one of my stakeholders that you have to call me from tomorrow GIC.
Right.
And he laughed, saying, what is this you are coming with now? What GIC, Said you call whatever you want to, but do some work,
Right. Add some value.
That was what. But that GIC, I think a lot of people didn't like. Right. And that turned to GCC. And I understand, right, what that the Global Capability Center is actually well-meaning. And it does define in terms of what India is, what this journey is. This industry is there. I am here for 25 years. And I think Amex started in 1997. So 2 years, 3 years before that. So it will soon be completing 30. But essentially, now to your question, typically they are 100% owned by the parent. That's the first condition. Mm-hmm. Mostly they are registered under either SEZ or STPI, but nowadays, because that put some restrictions, so there are GCCs operating outside of, the registration zone of STPI or SEZ as well, but that was done principally to get tax advantage.
Right.
Is because government of India was offering free tax for 10 years or whatever, right?
Yeah.
The third element is each global process applies to the GCC. Cost centers, the financials, the budget, the global system for two more important, right? People and finance. They are implemented in India as is. So a GCC has an annual budget that needs to be submitted. People are following the same hierarchy, and these days, people in India functionally report to the global manager as well. So there is ownership of work done. A lot of times we like to call it as extended team. The way to understand GCC is a global process owner has a team sitting in Manchester, could be in Warsaw, could be in Malaysia, and in India. So that is the extended team, right? So the financial, so you have to do the budget, the HR, the legal, compliance, audit, regulations, everything. The GCC is a legal entity in India. It needs to make money because it is a locally set business. So there is a transfer price margin that is added on cost, and it is billed to your parent. And every month, of course, you receive money. That's what is used to pay your expenses. But the margin is neutralized at a corporate level, which means that to the business who is leveraging India, the cost is, there is no margin, right? It is cost neutral. These are, the fundamentals of what a GCC versus a third party organization is.
Interesting. What you said is key is the core enterprise processes from a people function, finance or budget standpoint. Some of those core enterprise processes, they extend themselves to management or governance of the center, which is 100% owned by parent. And while there is a transfer pricing piece, it is neutralized at the corporate level.
Yes, that.
Right. Also, I guess then this definition that some organizations use, that they are a GCC, but they also are selling their services or products in India, would they continue to be within that definition, or they create a P&L out of India, then they go out of that definition? They are not truly speaking a capability center. It's almost like a business operation you're running. Is that a right way of thinking about it?
So one important factor to consider is a GCC should not lead to setting a permanent establishment in India, a PE. Is because if the tax authorities in parent country think that India is earning revenue, the GCC is earning revenue for the larger organization, it will amount to a PE, and that will attract a very different tax.
Yes.
So the GCC is an enabler from that perspective. It has to truly operate as an enabler. That is a differentiate. That is a given. The other processes follow because it is just like any other location.
Of course.
The one cumbersome most people find is the rec approval, right? If you want to hire a headcount, if I am a third party vendor, I don't need to go to the parents' approval. But in India GCC, if you want to hire or replace a headcount, it has to follow the global approval process for both headcount approval and compensation approval before you make an offer. So these are rules that the GCC
must abide by.
Yes.
And these are the fundamentals.
Yes.
What I would love to do for our listeners as well, and because this as a topic, of course it has gained momentum. There's so much statistics around the number of GCCs that operate in India, the size of the pie, close to about $60-70 billion, whatever. And then there are these projections of what it would look like from a 2030 standpoint. What I would love to do, Dinesh, is Steelmanned both sides of the argument and allow me to articulate the two sides of the argument. With the popularity of the terminology called GCC, which I also think that is still very India specific, right? And it's not a term that is super popular with folks who are outside of India, because I think that one should truly care about the value that one is adding. But anyway, let's take the definition. There is a lot of material or let's say argument today that we hear that GCC is the wave, and that'll gain momentum and it'll add significant amount of value. It is driving transformation, it is driving innovation, etc., etc. So Dinesh, what I would love to do is Steelmanned two sides of the argument when it comes to GCC versus outsourcing. Obviously, this whole market has become large. There is a lot of statistics around the number of GCCs that are in the country, close to that 2,000 number. The number of units will be maybe much more, maybe 3,500. There's the whole thing of $60 billion as a market. So this has become an important business within India, close to 2 million people employed. So what I'd love to do is spend some time steelmanning that argument that GCC is a good thing to do, have for an organization which is wanting to go global, drive transformation, etc., etc. Once we have done that, I'd love to go to the other side of the outsourcing argument, that at what stage would some of this could unravel or unfold in a way that wasn't really planned, in a sense that there'll be many GCCs that would have grown, either have already outgrown to a size where they are becoming unsustainable or going forward. So I somehow feel that there is a possibility of some sort of oscillation that may happen between these two. So I'd love to steelman both sides of the argument. And then let our audience have the wisdom to differentiate between what will work, what will not work, and be super careful that if I'm coming to the edges of a particular journey, how do I come back to ensure, that's the purpose of this whole conversation. And no one better than you, who have done it 3 times consecutively. So let me start by the for GCC argument. First up, when you are setting up a GCC, according to you, what are the non-negotiables? What are the real things that one needs to take care of, that they are in place? Let's start with that.
So, when organizations globally think about whether they want to set up a GCC or they want to go with a third party, service provider, and both models have been prevalent for 25 years. And the argument is always been there, whether it should be GCC or third party. And let's try and get into both. I will be doing a stronger case for GCC because that's what I've done for 25 years.
Not a surprise.
However, we have to agree that third parties have been very successful, equally successful. So there has to be something in it as well, right? So the GCC argument, is first and foremost, it is cost. Is because third parties are in it to make money. And the GCC is in it not for that. As a head of the organization, I do not have a profit target. I do not have a revenue target. Once those two are gone, I am working for different reasons. My goals as a leader of the organization are different. And in the last couple of years, we have insourced work from 2 large vendors. And we got access to their data, So what they were charging us and what their costs were, because we had to know how much salary they are offering.
Otherwise, how would you insource?
Otherwise, how would we insource? So now we authentically know the margins that they have, and they're pretty good.
You're being humble about it.
So the argument on cost-wise, GCCs are, and you can afford then to pay a little more because, you're saving on the margin. So cost is one. The second is it's much easier to do high-end work, critical work from your own center, because your clients, sometimes clients and regulators need to give a permission to move work outside of the zone, the main business center.
Yeah.
There are rules like GDPR which are very prevalent. Right? So where data gets accessed and where data gets processed is like, before COVID it was very, very stringent. After COVID a lot of things have got relaxed. However, it's much easier to convince regulators and clients to let the work be done in a GCC versus a third party. That is true. The third, the GCC does feel, act, operate like the business. And as a leader, in fact, that is all of our responsibility, that it acts like just another location. And so the communication is much better. Colleagues in India attend town halls of the global leader. There are travels that happen both ways. The leaders in India sit in staff meetings of the global process owners. The goal setting is much seamless. It is end to end. Colleagues in India have access to any and everything in the wider world. There are no constraints. Nobody asks questions. Who are you? Why are you, coming and asking me? So the scope of the work, what you are doing, there is a before and there is an after. From a GCC, it is easier. And in fact, it is expected that you go before and you go after. You understand what is before and what is after. All that becomes easier. The extended team principle that we talked about. Business resiliency is easier because then the global process owner is taking a call of an air traffic controller that I'm going to have X sitting in India, Y sitting in Asia, in Eastern Europe, Latin America. It all becomes like one organization feeling. Innovation, we talk, of course, that will come into our discussion, but like in Marsh McLennan, our CIO, Paul Beswick, he actually promoted Gen AI to be done internally. So there was a tool called Len AI that was introduced to all 80,000 colleagues around the world that go and use it, experiment with it. It's a sandbox. You go, use your client data, use any experimentation that you want to do, no limitations. This cannot happen outside of the organization. And India, and in Marsh McLennan, the 10,000 that we were, everybody had access to the same systems. Now, there are challenges. Of course, it's not easy. And maybe I'll talk about that when I come to the
other side
stealing the other side. But the true adding value, right? As a GCC, what do you want to do? The GCC is for Global Capability Center. And if you want to be able to add capability to the organization, you must have knowledge, right? See, the thing is, even in BNY Mellon or in Marsh McLennan, the insurance broking industry or the custody banking industry is non-prevalent. So 90% of the hiring is done of relevant skill set. And they are brought in, they are trained to do the work that we want to deliver to our clients. That means that when a migration happens of some work to India, we lose someone who has done it for decades, and then we add a person who has not done ever this before.
Right.
This is a huge responsibility on the GCC to go up on the learning curve quickly so that client doesn't suffer.
Right.
That means the knowledge enhancement has to be our top one priority here. And because we have in a GCC access to everything before, after other locations, the knowledge, the real knowledge of what the business is, it's very difficult to be done from GCC, but it is still that access is there. And the knowledge curve can go up quickly from there. These are some of the arguments of why the GCC is prevalent. The culture, let me talk about the culture as well. The global culture is what, the beginning of the year, the CEO, global CEO, will talk about what their strategic priorities are, what the goals for the year are, what are the results that get announced quarterly. That's resulting sometimes into, say, cost cut. Everything percolates in India. The strategy that the CEO is laying out becomes a strategy in India as well, to decipher what your goals are out of what the leader globally wants to do becomes possible. And even for them, India staying aligned to what the global wants to do becomes possible. There are challenges in that. It's not as easy as it sounds, but the vehicle to do that, the framework to do that is all there.
Right.
That is a in short argument.
Right.
For what, why GCCs.
And at the most fundamental level, from a business standpoint, what you're saying is the incentives for a capability center versus the incentive for a outsourcing partner are two different incentives.
Very different.
And as they say, incentives are very powerful thing in the long run. In the medium to long run, it influences behavior much more significantly than we appreciate on a daily basis. Alignment of the incentives are different.
You're absolutely right. So I'll add one more. While you were talking, I thought of one more, because it comes to incentive. The colleagues in India, they can look for international roles. I mean, it is true that every job gets posted, and people in India can apply for them as well. And not that lot many go, but there are employees who crack the IJP or the interview, have got roles outside of India, and the true career progression in the industry, like insurance industry or banking, the two that I have operated in, it is possible.
In fact, Dinesh, on that, there's I guess that has to become one of the most important factors that determines whether the GCC is truly adding value to the parent organization, which is how many global roles are embedded in the capability centers. Like it may be true that initially they are local roles, and it's just focused on the boundaries of what the capability center was initially set up for. But over a period of time, the embedding of global roles and truly global remit is important to the success of the capability center. With that said, let's also spend some time on when you're setting up a GCC, what are the non-negotiables? What would you really want to do initially? And then we'll go towards some of the missteps that organizations end up taking.
This is now in hindsight, right? This is not how my 25 years have been.
But this is 25 years of wisdom that you're sharing.
So if now at this stage anybody is thinking of India as a GCC, then the first thing would be to decide, why are you coming to India to set up a GCC? And one of the very recent reports I saw this, and I quite liked it. The question is, are you coming to India for capacity or capability? And the answer can be both, but depending on that, then the answers are different. Are you coming in for cost arbitrage? Are you coming here for cheap labor? Are you coming here to eliminate your non-value added task that nobody in the US wants to do, and now you want to call it offshore, outsource, whatever, that will be now done from a center in India? Or are you coming from day one to do AI, digital innovation, and to tap the Indian startup? They are very, very different. And now everybody likes to think they're coming in for AI, digital, because that's the in thing now. But personally, I think the answer, if I were to give this answer, the journey has to go from capacity to capability.
Interesting.
Even though I have been in this industry for 25 years, for a new person coming to India, for them it is still year zero.
Yeah.
So they will benefit from my experience, but they cannot come to year 25 in year 1.
Right.
It doesn't happen.
Well said.
It doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
it's just not possible.
Because even in the sending or the organization who wants to leverage India, there are leaders and there are doers, for lack of better word, right? Let me use these two terms. The leaders have intent, but doers are actually going to execute it. And their conviction does not come on day one. It takes time to figure out India. After 25 years, hopefully nobody will ask whether Indians speak English or not. Those are the questions I have answered during that time. But for anyone to know what the capabilities are takes time. So while I say the non-negotiable is to decide the intent, is also to, perhaps what I'm trying to say is, decide your journey of how, in what phases you are going to go from capacity to capability, and how fast you can do it to really leverage what India has to offer, which is way more than just cost. That is true. That I would say. And so then that leads to scoping, that leads to, figuring out which processes you can offshore or you want to offshore. They can come in later, but the main non-negotiable is this.
Beautifully defined. And Dinesh, allow me to come back to this point of the entry with capacity, but transitioning to capability. Because on the other side of the argument, I feel that if we stay, by the way, totally aligned that it makes great deal of sense for somebody coming in to have the purpose defined very well, the intent defined very well, but start with capacity and stuff that is easier. But because of the nature of cost escalations, etc., and the better discipline that a service provider can exert on its so-called pyramid and business, the transition from capacity to capability is almost deliberate, because if you spend too much time on the capacity, you'll die. Because the cost will become prohibitive, or it will become unsustainable for you to deliver value. So it's a great start. We'll come back to this transition.
You're right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. The GE, BNY Mellon and Marsh McLennan spent many years in this transition from capacity to capability. The newer companies coming here can do it much faster. With a deliberate focus on it.
It's almost like I have to go there, because if I don't, then I don't succeed by staying in the capacity eco bubble.
Correct.
Because the year-on-year cost escalations will make it impossible to sustain. Just purely on a capacity standpoint. Anyway, we'll come back to it. That actually segues into the next question brilliantly, that when somebody is thinking about building capability or building capacity, I'm sure there is the organic way of, taking the corporate functions, take any of the enterprise processes, portions or the whole of O2C or, P2P or hire to retire, portions of that, or you take AR, AP, stuff like that, FNA, etc., etc. So some stuff grows organically, but some stuff should grow almost deliberately. Just go deeper based on your experience.
So yes, most of them start with operations, or finance and accounting, or legal compliance like KYC type, or HR operations type of processes, They are the one easier to do. But I would like to give example of JLT, not even Marsh McLennan, JLT, which the organization that I had joined.
Yeah, before
in
the
March
acquisition in a few months.
2018, they had a vision.
Right.
And so, without even, when nobody cared to whether it's called GIC or GCC,
Right.
the leaders there at the time, and this is not just India, this needs sponsorship from UK. They looked at Mumbai and said that JLT's vision is to become strategic advisor to our client and not just be doing transactional insurance broking.
Yeah.
Because insurance is risk advisory.
Yeah.
Right? Tomorrow Google will come and disrupt.
Yeah.
And insurance broking may get automated. But a strategic advisory is what we are in it for. And that is our vision. And they chose at the time Mumbai to become the center to develop capabilities to advise clients. So the team it's still called Knowledge Services here, that had data science, analytics, strategic research type of skill set that was hired back then. Who would, so supposing, in Australia, the pitch is for insurance broking for a new chemical plant that is being set up. And now we have to advise the client, on the insurance coverage program for that project or factory. The research in terms of what advice should be given to the broker who is pitching for that in terms of the nuances of chemical factory in Australia and the risk that they should be looking to cover, etc., 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 is done in Mumbai. Now, this was not a traditional migration.
Yes.
And they set up this team I joined in 2018. I think this was set up like 3-4 years even before I joined. Or even way before that. Now, look at the broker who was sitting in Australia is getting a ready-made paper on their desk saying, this is what, or the claims ratio. They get the whole bit of the information they need. That is a strategic advisor. But, this is where the organization should be thinking of going. And the journey is parallel. Your capacity and capability is going to both happen. But to your point, that's when I thought of this example, the action is deliberate.
Deliberate. It is not, it's not naturally,
It is not.
If it is just allowed to progress naturally, it will take a very long time.
And then, why Marsh McLennan started to believe in India, one of the reasons was this team, is because they did not have such a team or had such a team in a very small scale. And they could see that, they could, build on what was already being done here by JLT, which was 1/4 the size of Marsh McLennan at the time. So, these are examples of where thoughtfully, strategically, the GCC, that is a true GCC.
Yeah.
Right? But, of course, but in JLT or even in Marsh McLennan today, do we do everything only around knowledge services? The answer is no. There are operations processes, there are technology processes, finance, accounting, legal. We also do have knowledge services, right? That is how the span of work should be thought.